And how are you?
Good.
So to start, when I was talking to John and Matt, oh my God, my names just left my head. When I was talking with them, I was talking
Your name
about
is
how
Rachel.
I'm Rachel. Thank you so much. I was talking about how good you are at improv because one of my favorite memories to talk about with you is how I watched you have to pivot in a Gravid Water singing where
Oh,
you
wow.
thought there was like a romance and then the next line was talking about your parents and it was just like a very quick pivot. But I asked them how it worked with you in the studio and like having that improv background with a vocal performance. So now that I'm speaking with you, I want to ask you that same question. How does your improv background and work in comedy help you when you're doing something like this where it is for the most part a solo performance but it's completely vocal versus if you were with a group on stage or in a television series.
Um, I am in the booth alone, so I'm improvising with people who aren't there or with the directors. Um, and I guess my improv background helps just because I can see other possibilities or points of view for a line or for a scene,
Hmm.
and I can say, "Hey, I have an idea about how to maybe get this point across differently, or how to button this bit and make it hopefully even funnier." And the thing is, and the scripts are so good that there's very little need for that, so they indulge me, and sometimes it gets in, and sometimes they don't need me to do anything at all, and it's uh, a great relationship in the booth with them because they are very generous and very patient, and uh, and I love what they do. So uh, my improv background is handy, but it's not necessary.
Well, one of the things I like about the show is like as an adult with like a younger niece and nephew, sometimes I'll watch these things and I'm like, I know who that is. You guys don't know who's talking right now, but I know who that person is. And it is funny to me because it's like, well, I instantly associate those voices with other things that are maybe not necessarily kid friendly. And then I
Hmm.
start to think about how like they're going to grow up not knowing, like, okay, your work on 30 Rock or Yvette's work on Community, they're going to know like Shape Island. Is that something that excites you to like when you're working on something like this where adults know you for any amount, any other thing possible, but a bunch of kids maybe someday are going to come up to you and be like, I used to love Shape Island when I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah. No, anytime someone uh, knows I did a voice, I'm very shocked and delighted. There are I had somebody tell me, a friend tell me that they were on social media and mentioned that I am the voice of Baymax to a bunch of Moral Oral fans. And Moral Oral is this Adult Swim stop motion animation show I did, which was very much for adults. And uh, the people refused to believe that Baymax was also Clay Puppington. So
Like
that's
that.
that's delightful. I like the idea that the work I've done is varied enough that people are shocked that I'm more than one thing.
When you mentioned two other vocal performances that you did, and I wanted to ask how what it for you is like the trick to differentiating between all of them and figuring out where those characters lie within your vocal register and making them all so different from one another.
I think part of it is just finding the voice that is most similar to someone I know, and then extrapolating from that, making it bigger or changing the lilt or whatever. But starting at someone I might know, and then expanding on it.
Well,
Does that answer your question?
yeah. No, it does. But I wanted to ask you a kind of silly question because one of my favorite, like, I was a UCB kid when it was really big here in New York still. I know it's back, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
And one of my favorite memories is when John Hamm did the George Lucas talk show and they sang you happy birthday because my birthday is the 8th and I was like of November and I was like, wait, Scott Adsit's getting my birthday song. I should be up there singing with Scott Adsit. But it is like little things like that that I always wonder, like for you as a comedian who did UCB so much with all these iconic roles in your career, what is the thing that people come up to you and talk to you about that shocks you the most at this point?
Well, little bit parts I've done in movies. I did a bit in The Italian Job, which people come up to and mention to me, which is just I played in one little scene, an actor rehearsing an audition in his car in his convertible, and Jason Statham is trying to turn left and he's behind me and I'm ignoring the light. So it's just him being an actor in a private moment. And it's, I don't know, somehow that resonates enough with people. That always delights me. And then um, there's the thing I did called Mary Shelley's Frankenhole for Adult Swim, which is a great stop motion paper-based 3D animation, which is amazing. And occasionally I hear about that because I love that show. So it's always a delight to hear something that is obscure that shouldn't be.
You're like, yeah, sure. I am that guy from the Italian Job.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, it's always an honor to get to talk to you because every time I got to see you on stage was delightful. And now I can't wait for everyone to get to see season 2 of Shape Island. So
Me
thank you
too.
for talking with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel. Hope to see you at the theater.
I hope so too. Have a great Hi guys, how are you?
Good.
Hey,
How
how
you
are
doing,
you
Rachel?
doing?
Doing great. So I wanted to start by asking you with a a show geared towards kids. It's always like fun to kind of be adults and have a little bit more freedom, but you also now have the knowledge that like there are going to be kids when they get older who come up to you guys and are like, I used to watch this as a kid all the time. Have you guys kind of grapple with the fact that there's going to be Shape Island fans 20 years from now?
We see it a little bit with our books. Have you started having this happen, John? Like, because we've been making books longer than we've been making TV.
Mhm.
And so it started to happen that adults, that like college kids or older, will come up and get a book signed, and you'll be like, oh, this like must be for some kid, and they're like, I had this book when I was 5 years old, and then you realize how old you are, and you start weeping, and they think it's because you're so touched by this moment, but actually you're just
So
confronting your own mortality and age. So
they're like,
you
do
guys,
you just cry a lot when you get old? Is that how that works?
yeah.
I this I was 4 when I got this, and now I'm a full-grown person, and you're
So
just
yeah, I would say that like I'm in denial about what you just said, and I try not to think about it. But I think that denial is useful too. I think that actually John and I talk about this a lot, but it doesn't help us creatively really necessarily to think about our audience growing up. And like how this will influence them, or like what'll make them, like how it'll influence their taste or how they live, even though that stuff does happen and it's a very powerful thing about children's television, children's books. We're really convinced that we have to stay focused on the kid that's there right now, like the living, breathing, feeling kid who's having complex days and big questions. And like, I can't start thinking about what that kid becomes, because I have to be like, what story do you need to hear today?
I like to think about it. It does inform a little, it doesn't inform the creative decisions, I guess, but in the way I think about it is that like if you think about like 23-year-olds and they're all like lying on the floor of like a dorm common room at 2 in the morning and someone's like, does anybody remember that show where this triangle like walks into a mountaintop at the end and they never answer that question? Everyone's like, yeah, what was that? Like, even if they don't remember the title or anything about it, that weird impressionistic, like dreamlike quality that some of this stuff makes in the back of your minds. And then you bring it up later at a party or something when you're all grown up. And everyone's like, yeah, I remember that. I thought I dreamt that. I'd love to make that stuff.
And they're like, where, like, who made that show? And they Google us,
Yeah,
and
what were
we're
they doing?
dead, and
That's
we're
the
dead, and we've been dead for 10 years.
skeletons.
Our skeleton smiles.
Skeletons just like throw a fist in the air in
Our
triumph.
skeletons are in the same room. We're in the same crypt. We've been buried next to each other because
In
We're
the
on
shape.
brought
Zoom.
together by Shape Island.
Well, and on the flip side, I did want to ask you guys, what were those shows? Because like I remember for you
Oh
guys,
yeah.
remember like when Barney got stuck in his suit and they all thought Barney was gonna die. Like I remember that as a core memory in my
It's
mind.
also it's always stuff like that, right? Where
Yeah.
it's never the sweet nice stuff. It's always like we thought Barney was gonna die. Remember that morning? And you're like, yeah, everyone remembers that. And like that's why we sort of get up to mischief sometimes in terms of the content. Is like that's all the only thing that counts, you guys. The only thing anyone remembers is when Barney almost died.
Yeah, yeah, where the thing seems to like break down, or like a trap door opens in the episode, right? Like that stuff is really
Yeah.
huge. I think that
Your big one, Matt. What
Me-
was the big weird one?
I mean, not the big weird one, but for me, the show is Sesame Street. Like I like that run of Sesame Street, that initial run from like 1969 to like the late 80s. I'm just gonna say it. So like the rise of Elmo. Like pre
Wait, you mean
Pre-Elmo,
when
PE.
they were
BE
gaslighting,
Sesame
when
Street
they were
BE.
gaslighting Big Bird and being like Snuffleupagus isn't real.
Yeah.
It's like
Yes.
this
Oh man,
Yes.
so
That is
dark.
wild. That I know. That era is so important to me. And like I've always known it was important, but now I have a 4-year-old, and I screened Sesame Street for him, BE only. And when then there'll be a set or a joke or a moment or a musical cue that I'm like, I haven't heard this since I was 4 years old, but I remember it. It has been in there the whole time, and it is, again, it is so overwhelming. And when I watch Sesame Street in ways that I didn't even realize, I was like, this informed my sense of comedy, my sense of
Right.
what story is, my sense of character. I see all the things I am most excited to do when I write in that show, and I didn't really know it until I started watching it again with my son.
I grew up in Canada, and so a lot of our weird
Hey, it's Sesame Street Canada. Big Bird is green.
Snuffleupagus is already real.
no.
That's true. Nobody ever gaslit Big Bird in Canada. They're
No.
like, it's rule.
Look, guys, be nice, chill out. We have to do this in a passive aggressive way, not overtly. But that, yeah, that we got a lot of British television and British films and stuff. And so the one that we always got from the library was the animated Watership Down. And I don't know if you've ever seen that, like the 1970s one. I watched it way too early and way too often, and it was the same thing where I was like, this has informed my sense of like what animals do to each other, what human beings are capable of. Like it's a light introduction, not even a light introduction to like so many horrible government systems and stuff. Just like this, it informs who you are and what you make. All that stuff does, and that's I think why we're so interested. We're interested in like the 2 a.m. Dorm room discussion too, but we understand that like those weird, uncanny ones, the ones that really bury themselves deep, are formative. They make you as a person as much as anything else does.
We have some friends who are filmmakers in the UK, and we were having dinner with them, and one of them was like, "It's a very British show, isn't it, Shape Island?" And like we both were like, and again started weeping. We're crying in a lot of our stories, I know, but we're crying a lot in life. Yeah.
But then they'll say, it reminds me of this one show. You ever seen Fizzy Bottom or something? You're like, no, never heard of that. And they're like, it's exactly like Fizzy Bottom. And you're like, all right, great.
Yeah, we're like, is fizzy bottom, is that like a funny term in the UK? Because that sounds crazy in the US. And they're like, no, it's very normal. Fizzy bottom.
We're all like, sure. Well,
Right.
I wanted to ask you guys on that for a last thing. Like, you have iconic comedic actors voicing these characters that, like, as an adult, I'm like, yes, Scott Adsit is like one of the best improvisers ever. That's Yvette Nicole Brown. Like, I know her from Community and all these other things. Was it intentional then to pick people that like adults when they're watching it would be like, oh hey, like or did it just happen that way? Because that's to me.
No, I think we just wanted great comics. Like
Yeah.
we were writing, it was like, this is script driven comedy, right? These started as scripts. Ryan Pequin, our head writer, and all of the writers he hired were just like comedy people. Like even they mostly came from kids TV, but they all were great joke tellers. And we needed people who knew how to tell those jokes.
And like to plus them too, because yeah, we wanted people who were going to run with the material and make it their own and find better ways of doing it than we even thought. That's the joy of collaboration, right? Is to be
Like
like,
speaking of community, sorry, John, just like speaking of community, like I remember one time Yvette was like, "Let me give you a Shirley take," and I was like, "Yes, please." uh, and Scott was incredible. Like Scott, like you talk about Scott being the great improviser. I have knowledge of that in this new way because he would show up. There was one, it was cold in New York City, and he showed up. I swear it was a black turtleneck. Like, and so he looked like the most serious actor, and it was the Halloween episode of Triangle. And he like his like his like lights down if he's doing an improvised scene where he's getting into character, like his lights down is so serious, and then on lights up he has that improviser's way of he is instantly in it. And so there was this guy, and like he just looked like he was like Olivier playing Hamlet in his black turtleneck, and then he would take a pause and then come in fully formed into triangle, like singing a song about a pumpkin. And it was the most amazing transformation to watch over and over again.
And then he'd go back, and then
he would go back.
and he would go back, and you're just like, like, how does this person exist? And like, yeah, and then he'd be like, I want to make an adjustment to the fourth line, and like, it just like you had watched this absolute sniper,
Yes.
take his shot, but it sounded insane.
I
But
know.
it was absolutely calculated.
It's
Yeah.
got Scott going like back into like Hamlet pose and saying like, "Can I give you one more?"
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
Like,
yes.
yeah.
Well, I will leave you guys with this. One of my favorite Scott Adsit stories was he used to do Grab and Water at UCB, and I used to go and see it all the time. And one
Yeah.
scene he did was he was convinced that they were lovers, and he was like fully like leaning into that. And then and like you could tell that the actress was like doing something weird, and I was like, "What's going on?" And then the next line she had was like, "Brother, listen," or like something that
Oh,
like
no.
they were siblings. And I watched him panic and then twist into like the next and like just sideswipe everything he just
Yeah, you watch
so-
the massive problem-solving machine just work its way. It was such a pleasure to watch all those guys do that, where they were just like so good at it. That moment exactly.
oh, it's so good. I
Not
can't wait.
exactly, because that's gross and weird, but exactly.
You know, it would happen in Shape Island. But I can't wait for everyone to get to see season 2. And so thank you guys so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for
Thank
having us
you.
chat with you.
Have a great one. Hey, Yvette, how are you?
I'm good, Rachel. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So to start, I am a comedy nerd. So your voice to me, I just instantly picture you. And so when you get to use only your voice to something like this, what for you is the biggest gift of getting to just lend your voice to a story and allowing, the adults who might be watching it a moment of being like, oh, that's Yvette Nicole Brown. Like I know that voice.
Oh, well, first of all, the greatest gift is hearing that. No one's ever said that to me before, so I'm excited. First of all, it's humbling to realize that I've been in the business long enough where someone can hear my voice and know that it's me. That's really sweet to hear. So thank you. That makes me very happy. I grew up with voices that I loved. Felicia Rashad is a voice I love. Betty White is a voice I love. So I knew them. They'd say one word. I'm like, that's Felicia. So I understand that feeling. So to be that for another generation is very, very wonderful to hear. So thank you for that.
And of course, when you get to join a long line of historical narrators,
Mm-hmm.
because every time I think of a narrator, I just think of Into the Woods because the narrator is such a fun role in that. But
Absolutely.
how is it getting to, this story, while you're not playing a character, the story is kind of hinging on your performance. How is it to be that kind of force in something like this?
It's so amazing. Like Harvey and Gideon and Scott do such a great job embodying the circle and the square and the triangle, that it's just fun for me to get to describe their shenanigans and their moments of wonder and what they're discovering. So it's nice to be like the fourth voice in this piece. I don't take it lightly. I'm very serious about making sure that what those artists have created and what the amazing stop motion animation artists are going to create, I want to make sure that what I do lives up to that level of quality and excellence. So I do not take it lightly at all. It's very important.
When you have a long standing career of doing a bunch of different jobs,
Mhm.
because if it's not like acting in Community, then you're hosting things. And
Yeah.
I love your Twitter account. I think it is one of the funniest things on the planet. But now voiceover is a completely different beast.
Mhm.
What for you is the trick of like making a voiceover performance so kind of unique and original when you're not getting to use like your face and your body to act something out?
It was so hard for me. It's a great question, Rachel. The first thing I did was a video game years ago, and I remember I was in the booth, and they said, "Well, she needs to say this line in an authoritative way," and I said, "Well, I raised my eyebrow," and they were like, and I was like, "Oh," and so it took me a minute to figure out how do I make my voice sound like authoritative person, because if you've seen me on television, I'm very rubber faced. I'm like, everything I'm feeling you can see, and I had to find a way to put that in my voice, but I love the challenge. So for me, it was like, let me figure out how to do this because I really wanted to be great at voiceover because I love it so much. So I hope that I've achieved that. The fact that I've been able to do this for probably 15 years now, I've been doing voiceover. That makes me feel like I finally figured out, I've cracked the code and I know how to do it. So yeah.
One, I want to ask you kind of like a whole career kind of thing because
Mhm.
you give a lot of hope to girls like me who I'm in my
Oh.
30s, I'm not married. I'm like, I want one day to get married and all that stuff. And it was like seeing your journey and how you kind of,
Yeah.
got married later and was
Yeah.
focused on your career and stuff is inspiring. And how does it feel now that you can look back and see, 15 years ago when you're doing voiceover the first time or when you were first acting to see where you are now and like doing press for something like this, which kids are going to now
Yeah.
grow up with and know you for? And how does it feel kind of seeing where you are now versus where you maybe started when you were doing voiceover?
Yeah, first of all, I want to encourage you and tell you that your life is going to be big and vast and wonderful. And whatever you don't have today that you need to have to go forward, you will have ultimately. And the years that I was single and trying to figure it out, I literally always held on to that fact that if I was supposed to be someone's good thing, the time would come. And it did come. I came in my 50s, but I got to tell you, I lived really good in my 20s and 30s and 40s, and I built a life that I was proud of, where whether someone walked the path with me or not, I knew that I had been a good person and I'd lived a good life and I made good friends. I had a great dog. So I encourage you and anyone else listening to celebrate the life they have right now with the understanding that it will be greater later if it needs to be, but it's great right now. So I will say that. And looking back on my career, it was one project at a time, one step at a time. I never knew that I would even still be in this industry this long. But if you just keep taking the step and you just look at the and you get enough light for the step ahead of you, take the a hell of a step every single time, and don't worry about what's beyond. Just take that first step and give your all to that step, and then you'll look back like an old lady like me and see a long career that you're proud of, and relationships that you're proud of. Do not settle. Don't settle in this business. Don't settle in your personal life, and that's friend, family, lover. Don't ever settle. Wait for the one that makes your heart sing. And that's a job. That's all of it. Wait for that thing and keep striving. You're going to do great, honey. You're going to do great. Don't you worry.
Oh, well, I love that very, very much. It's an honor to talk to you. I literally, anytime I talk to one of my comedy shows that are my comfort, like people
Mm-hmm.
from them that are my comfort shows, it means a lot. So thank you for talking to me. I can't wait for my niece to get to see this and for everyone to get to see Shape Island too. So, or season 2. So thank you so much. I really appreciate
Thank you. And I love your nails, and you have a really pretty
it.
face.
Oh, thank you.
Your face is very pretty.